Hello and welcome to Wait, for real?
A true crime and paranormal podcast. I'm Grace.
And I'm Katie.
I was like, is she Katie?
I
You
am.
paused
Am
there.
I? I don't know.
There's a slight delay. I was like, oh, maybe she isn't Katie. I don't know who she is anymore.
I think there's a delay in like the feed because I was like, I don't feel like I paused, but maybe I did.
Maybe. I don't know. Whenever we're recording, it makes you super pixelated, but I know
It
that
does the same
whenever
to
it,
you.
yeah, I think it's just because it's like there's
Yeah.
too much memory going on. I'm
It's trying its
like, well, I'll
hardest.
never know what she looks like. It's fine.
That's right. It's okay. You don't need to know.
Um, Literally, I was telling her whenever we started, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna just like look like a hobo today because people just need to start acknowledging my true presence, which is just athletic wear, a
True
hat, and a
form.
ponytail. I was like, I should look cute whenever I record, and I'm like, no. And then I thought of the shoot, what's those two guys that have the podcast that have the
The
hilarious
basement
videos?
yard.
Yeah, the basement yard. Like they're always wearing like
Yeah.
t-shirts. I'm like, I can wear a t-shirt.
Yes. Yes. T-shirts all the way.
Yeah. Yeah. So before we get started on the actual episode, I have some true crime news. Well, I guess it's not true crime. It's more of like death news. I don't know. Anyways,
Okay.
so this came from Denny Tonatori. So
Mm-hmm.
he's listening probably to this episode. Hey, what's up, Denny? He is an avid listener of our podcast now, so he listens to it while he's working, and it's weird because I'm like working at the same time of him, and he's like, "What's your take on this?" Like he was talking like about Cindy James last week, and
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, this is weird." So, anyways, this just happened in this past April, and the reason why he brought it up, he was like, "You know what's crazy is his sister like owns a salon or something in the strip mall where
Mm-hmm.
this happened."
Okay.
So I'm gonna read the article, the news article, and then I'll like give you, my take on it. So
Okay.
it says police are investigating a fatality found in a crashed vehicle in a grassy ditch near the Bravo Supermarkets sign adjacent to South US Highway 1792 near
Mm-hmm.
Enterprise Road in Orange City, Florida, on Friday, April 11th. According to Volusia Sheriff's Office, the current investigation suggests it was a suicide. Photos
Mm.
taken at the scene and provided to the Beacon show the investigators examining what appears to be straps tied around a concrete pillar in a parking lot. The truck, crashed into a ditch, is located about 100 feet away from the pillar. Other photos reveal that there is what appears to be a decapitated head of an older gentleman located in a grassy area near the pillar.
Oh no.
So basically, what happened was this gentleman was trying to complete suicide. So what he did is he wrapped a like toe strap
No.
around a pillar of a strip mall, wrapped the other one around his head,
No.
got in
Grace.
his truck, and floored his truck.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Yeah. And the thing that's insane is because when this happened, people were really confused because they're like, oh, it's a car accident. So everyone ran over to the car and he had
Oh
no head.
no. Oh no.
And so then they had to go back over, like, so she walked out of her salon or whoever walked out and saw his head sitting there. And so, like, that picture is what he has. Is the picture, like, the picture is public knowledge now, too.
The picture of his head, of the guy's head.
Phew.
Bless you.
Phew.
Bless
Excuse
you.
me. Thank you. Yeah, his head.
That's
Like, I have a
not.
picture of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, happy thoughts today.
Amazing. Let's remember to place a trigger warning in the show notes because holy shit,
Yeah,
that's
quite
nuts.
the jump scare in the first 5 minutes of the episode. So,
Yeah. Oh my
all
god.
right. Now
Okay.
you may take over the show.
Wow. I mean, I think that's all we need to do for today. Let's just call it. Goodbye, you guys. The quickest
Our
episode
episode
ever.
is literally 5 minutes. You're welcome.
Yeah. Okay. So, just gonna dive right in.
Okay.
Paula Jean Welden was born on October 19th, 1928, and is the eldest of four daughters to a well known engineer and architect by the name of William Archibald Welden and his wife, Jean Douglas. So in 1946, 18-year-old Paula is a sophomore at Bennington College. in North Bennington, Vermont, and she lives on campus in a dorm with her roommate at Dewey Hall. On
Okay.
December 1st, she had been studying all day, and she decides, like, halfway through the day that she's going to take a break and she's going to go for a walk slash hike.
Okay.
She tells this to her roommate, Elizabeth Thompson. On Monday, when Elizabeth found that Paula's bed had not been slept in, she went to the school administration and Paula's family was contacted, and her father immediately comes to Bennington and organizes a search. At this time, this is just like a little note, Vermont does not have a state police force. So,
Really?
yes, we're going to talk
Okay.
about the day that she disappeared and the people that ran into her, because there's actually a surprising amount of witnesses for this case. So, the trail that she wanted to go to is called the Long Trail, and it's about 10 miles away from Bennington. So between 2:45 and 3 p.m. on she leaves at 2:30 p.m. So then at 2:45 to 3 p.m., a local contractor, Lewis Knapp, picks up a hitchhiker matching Paula's description on Route
Freaking hitchhiking.
67. I know, but this is the 40s, so this is even pre, like you hear about a lot in the 70s, and that's kind of like when all
Yeah, what
the
year is
serial
this
killers
again?
are. This is 1946.
Okay. Right
And
after
Bennington
World
is
War
very
II.
small. Yes.
Got it.
So Lewis Knapp picks her up, and it's on Route 67A just outside the college gates. He says that he can take her to where his house is, like then he's gonna drop her off because he's not gonna go beyond that. But it's on the way to Long Trail.
Okay.
He does drop her off at his driveway on Route 9 in Woodford, which is just a few miles from the Long Trail. And at 4 p.m., a group of hikers, including a man named Ernie Whitman, encounter Paula on the trail, and she asks them how far the trail, like how long is the trail? And Ernie tells her that it goes into Canada, so from Vermont to Canada. I think the total length of the trail is something insane, like 270 miles. But
Jesus.
before
Okay.
they go their separate ways, he comments on Paula's attire and how it's not appropriate for a long hike in these temperatures. She is wearing a red parka with a fur trim, jeans, and light colored sneakers.
Okay.
And he would later tell this information to reporter Pete Stevenson. And so December 2nd is when she's reported missing.
Okay.
Her dad comes up. It kind of like spreads across the town. Like it's Vermont, just in general, very small. So once they hear this news, Paula's father and Pete Stevenson, the reporter, drive to Woodford to begin a search. 3 residents confirmed that they had seen a girl walking towards the Long Trail, and she was last seen near a camp called Hunter's Rest. The three
Okay.
men walked towards Glastonbury, which is like a mountainous area, as part of the trail.
Mhm.
And they are looking 20 feet on each side just to make sure they're not missing anything while
Right.
they're searching. So they continue until they find a camp slash cabin owned by William Lazoun. And this is located about 4 miles below the fire tower.
Okay.
And it's important to note that when they're searching, it's just tough, right? So it's December. It had snowed Sunday night. So there were about
Oh
three
yeah, the
inches
snow
of
has to be
snow.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So when she got there, circling back, just a little chaotic today, but circling back to when she was on, she got to the trail. They see her at 4 p.m. The sun set that day at 4:20 p.m.
Oh yeah, the
So
sunset's so early.
so she's like barely there when the sun starts to set. So they have trouble. They basically come up to this camp, but they think that it's unlikely that she would have reached the camp because she would have had trouble crossing the stream that kind of like separates the trail from the camp,
Okay.
just because she was wearing sneakers. So the group manages to speak to William Lazan, and he says he didn't see Paula, but that he did encounter 3 servicemen the day before, so 2 sailors and 1 soldier. And he just thought that the instance was weird because none of them were dressed for hiking. And when they stopped to talk to him, they asked if they could leave a suitcase with him.
What?
They just say, like, we're trying to go up to like camp a little further, and this is like kind of an inconvenience. Can we just leave this here with you and we'll come back and get it on the way back down?
The 40s, man.
They never come back for the suitcase. So the men decide collectively they're going to look into it, and they find pieces of a sailor's uniform and a Navy uniform, and they are able to identify the three men. And so they say the William, the owner of the cabin, says that one of the men, M. Golder, asserted that he was from New York. Another man, William Watts, said that he was a native of Bennington, but after further inquiry, they agree that nobody by the name of William Watts lives in Bennington. It's such a small town, so they're able to be like, no, that's
What?
actually not true.
Okay.
Now, of course, they're never able to find, I don't know if they really try that hard to track down these men, but they're not able to link the men to
But it's
her
like
disappearance
legitimate
or anything like that.
service. It's like service uniforms were in the suitcase.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Now, Abe Ruskin had claimed to pick up a young woman in his taxi cab on the day that Paula Weldon went missing, driving her to a nearby bus station. Um, Given the time that Ruskin had said that he had last seen the woman, police identified 4 different routes that the girl could have taken from the terminal. One bus routed nearby Burlington, Vermont, and the other 3 to diverging destinations in New York, Pittsfield, Albany. Okay, yeah, and New York City. Authorities in nearby states were contacted to be on the lookout for the missing woman, and the investigators looked more deeply into the possibility that Paula could have left on her own accord. However,
Mm-hmm.
it's important to note that the taxi cab driver couldn't positively identify if it was Paula or not. And so,
Right.
after they've kind of like done these roundabouts with different people, they come to the conclusion that there may have been 2 women on the trail that day, and that the other woman may have been the one that got in the taxi cab, and that accounted for some of the sightings, not the confirmed sightings, so not the 4 p.m. or the hitchhiking one. Those were definitely
Right.
Paula.
Okay.
Now, Wednesday night, college president Jones issues a statement that authorities suspect foul play and that they believe that Paula's body has been concealed somewhere.
Oh shit.
Uh, yep. And they confirm that 3 men who spent the last weekend at a camp near Glastonbury had already been questioned. Then another man comes forward. This is John Proud of the Adams Clothes Store. And he said that he sold clothes to a man on Saturday afternoon. And the man was with 2 other men, and they had told him that they might go hiking. He also
Okay.
said that he was a student at a photographic school in New Haven. And this man matched a description given by the Fall River police early Thursday morning. So it's thought that these may be the same servicemen that had
I was
gone.
gonna
But
say,
again,
okay.
it was just a weird interaction. That's why the shop owner remembered them.
Yeah.
So on December 5th, searches began at dawn in a 7 square mile area between Bald and Glastonbury Mountain. Over 125 people from Bennington and Williams College, as well as locals, assisted in the search, led by Sheriff Clyde Peck. 5 aircrafts were deployed, as well as 120 men from the State Guard,
Wow.
meaning that nearly 500 searchers were involved. Each searcher carried confetti to drop to ensure that the area was searched only once,
Oh, that's smart.
which is, yes, it is actually really smart. Not eco-friendly, but smart.
Well, eco-friendly
It was the
confetti
40s.
nowadays. Yeah,
That's right.
right,
Now you
yeah.
could. So true. Biodegradable. A thorough search of the Blue Trail over Bald Mountain was made after a Bennington College faculty member found footprints Wednesday afternoon that might have been made by a sneaker. But the 500 searchers find nothing. The search of the Long Trail
What?
was concluded, and authorities believe that Paula was not in the area. And her father is notoriously not happy with this. He's like,
No
no, there's
shit.
no way that you can't find her. Um, and then another man comes forward. So a woodsman on the eastern slope of Glastonbury near Searsburg reported that he had heard what he thought was a woman screaming the day that she disappeared. Authorities checked the area and they find nothing.
The
Now,
fuck?
the town and a lot of people at the colleges and her family put up a reward of $5,000 for anyone that can give information leading to Paula. Now, $5,000 in 1946 would be equivalent to $82,462 today.
Holy shit.
No, and no one came forward.
What?
Yeah. On December 15th, the official search operation comes to an end. And in May of the following year, when the snow had melted, Paula's father organized another 2 day search, but no trace of Paula was found. He criticized the authorities' lack of sophisticated methods in handling the case, which actually served as a catalyst for the founding of the Vermont State Police, which happened 7 months later.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep. Now, at some point during the original search, so back before it was called off, Paula's father disappears for like 36 hours. Like he just goes
What?
off. Nobody knows where he went. Nobody knows, but there are reports that she had gotten into an argument with her dad and that the relationship may have been strained. Um, but again, there's no evidence to suggest
Like, what
he
would
did
his.
anything to her.
Oh, yeah, I
It's
wouldn't
more
think
thought that
that.
no, I think it's more thought that like maybe she had gone off, but a lot of other people think like he was just probably following a lead and
Yeah. We also
that
probably
it
didn't have a lot of
wasn't
faith in the police at that point.
right, yeah. And then a Massachusetts waitress on Monday night, so Sunday she goes missing, Monday is the first day, reports that she had seen a woman matching Paula's description in the diner that she worked with another man, and that the woman seemed on edge and that it seemed like the guy was abusive. But again, nobody was ever able to link this to anything
Right. So a lot of
substantial.
potential sightings, but nothing really substantial.
Right. And numerous theories emerge, ranging from her going off and eloping with a secret boyfriend to an accident or an animal attack to intentional disappearance or foul play. And some suspected that she may have fallen prey to a serial killer. Others believed that a similar explanation was most likely, such as an accident or succumbing to exposure because of the really harsh
What
weather if she had
about
gotten lost.
what about aliens? Sorry.
Nobody mentioned that. But
I know. We'll just move right along.
now, investigators do come across a lumberjack by the name of Fred Godet who lived along Harbor Road. He was in the midst of an argument on the day of her disappearance. So he's arguing with his girlfriend when Walden walks by. He storms off in a jealous rage shortly thereafter. And depending on the different statements he made, because he made several different statements, he either went to his shack and spent the evening by himself, or he drove up the travel portion of the trail, which is also where Walden was heading.
Hmm.
He lied to police on several occasions and was a person of interest, both in 1946 and when the case is revisited in 1952. Now, the thing that led them to Fred is that he told at least two people that he knew where her body was.
Why? Okay. Shut up.
When confronted by police, he was like, "Oh, it was just bullshit.
I was just
It
kidding.
was- yeah, it was just a joke." He calls it idle talk, but
The fuck is that supposed to mean? Uh-oh,
like it
Peaches
means
is
bullshit.
awake.
She's coming to choose
I
violence.
hear the chirping. Come here.
You
Sorry
ready?
guys, my cat showed up.
Yeah, if you can see the tail and her ears in the video.
Baby.
The little baby peach.
All right, so back to this
Okay.
idiot saying that he was just joking around, making chit
Yeah,
chat.
nothing ever comes from this either. And then an author by the name of Joseph A. Citro comes up with this theory known as the Bennington Triangle, which describes a period between 1945 and 1950 where at least four other people mysteriously disappeared and the cases were never solved. Now, precisely what area is encompassed in this hypothetical mystery triangle is not clear, but it allegedly is centered on Glastonbury Mountain and would include
Okay.
some or most of the areas of towns immediately surrounding it, so including Bennington, Woodford, Shaftsbury, and Somerset. And Glastonbury and its neighboring town set of Somerset were both once moderately thriving logging and industrial towns, but began to decline toward the late 19th century and are now essentially ghost towns or unincorporated
Oh
areas.
wow. Okay.
Hmm. So these are
So
the other. Oh, wait, go ahead. Do you have a question?
nope, you're good. You're good.
Okay, these are the four other people that went missing. starting with Mitty Rivers in 1945, so before Paula Weldon went missing. This is the first appearance to occur, and it happens on November 12th, 1945, when 74-year-old Mitty Rivers vanishes while hunting in Bickford Hollow, about 4 miles west of Bennington and north of Vermont Route 9 near Woodford. Rivers was a skilled outdoorsman, and he frequented his son-in-law's hunting camp on the Long Trail and was described by friends as well acquainted with the area. Around 4 p.m. on November 9th, 1945, Rivers was seen by a friend on a nearby trail walking in a direction opposite the camp. When he failed to return that evening, a search party was launched. Extensive searches were conducted that autumn and included volunteers from Fort Devens and from the Vermont State Guard. A search party leader anticipated finding Rivers' remains, noting that numerous people had been lost in that region in recent decades, but all had eventually been recovered. The only evidence discovered, however, was Rivers' handkerchief found by a hiker the following spring along a trail south of his last known location.
Okay.
So next we
So
would
still
have
no
Paula.
evidence.
Correct. Next we would have Paula Weldon in 1946. And then in 1949, James Tedford, a 68-year-old World War I veteran, went missing on December 1st, 1949, 3 years to the day after Weldon was last seen.
I was gonna
And
say, wait.
yeah, Tedford was a resident of the Vermont Soldiers Home in Bennington and had been in St. Albans visiting relatives who accompanied him to the local bus stop and observed him boarding a southbound bus. The last confirmed sighting of Tedford was at the bus depot in Burlington, where he had a brief conversation with an acquaintance before transferring to a Bennington-bound bus at about 6:15 p.m. The bus driver later reported to police that a man resembling Tedford may have disembarked in the village of Brandon, about 70 miles north of Bennington, while the same night, Brandon police investigated a report of a man fitting Tedford's description acting queerly in the village's downtown, which back then meant weird.
I don't like that use of the terminology.
Yeah. Now, Tedford's disappearance went unreported for 1 week until the superintendent of Bennington's Soldiers Home notified police on December 8th, and newspaper reports indicate that Tedford was mentally ill at the time of his disappearance, and his family stated that he was despondent about returning to Bennington.
It
Author
also could have
Tony
been one of
Jinks
those things. Wait, go ahead.
Author Tony Jinks discusses Tedford's disappearance, saying that, quote, the popular conception is that he vanished into thin air while on the bus. But like many missing person stories, there's a gap between when he was last seen and when he was reported missing a week or so later. Regarding Tedford's disappearance, there is enough evidence to suggest he did not dematerialize, even though no trace of him is ever found.
So there's no trace of any of these people.
Correct. Oh, the
Mm.
last one there is. The last one there is. But
Okay.
next is 1950. So on October 12th, 1950, Paul, I'm doing air quotes if you can't see me, Buddy Jepson is a special needs child aged 8, vanishes while accompanying his mother on farm chores. At about 3 p.m., his mother drives with him to a Bennington town dump where the family kept a herd of pigs. She left him
Ew.
unattended in the vehicle for about 30 minutes while she tended to the animals, but when she returned at around 4 p.m., he was missing.
Yeah.
Authorities initially focused their search on the dump and surrounding woods, but a bloodhound later tracked Jepson's scent along an adjacent road to an intersection where the trail abruptly ends. Police theorized that the rain may have washed away the scent, while Jepson's father speculated that a driver may have accidentally struck the boy and taken him from the scene in a panic. He also stated that searchers might have overlooked Paul in nearby woods because his brown and tan clothing blended in with the fall leaves. And the
Jeez.
last one is also in 1950. On October 28th, 1950, 16 days after Jepson vanished, Frida Langer, aged 53, went missing while hiking in the woods near Somerset. A skilled hiker and hunter, Langer had accompanied her husband Max and cousin Herbert Elsner that morning from their home in North Adams to the family cabin on the shores of Somerset Reservoir. While hiking with Elsner around 1 p.m., Langer slipped and fell into a stream, soaking her clothes. She
Oh
stated to
shit.
Elsner that she intended to go a shortcut back to the cabin, change her clothes, and then catch up with him later. When
Right.
she failed to return, a search was initiated, which included aircraft, helicopters, and about 300 searchers. Langer had suffered from a seizure disorder, and her husband speculated that the exposure to cold temperatures may have triggered a seizure, causing her to become disoriented and lost in the woods. And on
Ugh.
May 12th, 1951, fishermen found Langer's body 3.5 miles southeast from the campsite on the shore of the eastern branch of the Deerfield River in an area that had been only lightly searched previously.
Mm.
While no cause of death could be determined because of the condition of her remains, an investigator theorized that Langer had fallen down an embankment into a deep pond where she had drowned, and her body had been flushed out months later by spring rain.
Wait, so she went missing on what day and when was she found?
So she went missing October 28th, 1950, and is found May 12th, 1951, which would make sense like
Jeez, yeah, okay.
winter and then spring.
That's
And so,
crazy.
yeah, so if the Bennington Triangle exists, which I'm a little bit of a skeptic at heart, so I will say I don't think that it does. I think that this was a great opportunity for this author who then would go on to write two books that would incorporate the Bennington Triangle. I think these disappearances are really sad, but I think that all of them can be kind of accounted for.
Do you think they're all
And
disappearances? Like somebody wandered off, or do you think there's something bad at play?
so I think, so let's start with the first one. The first one, I truly don't know what happened to him, Midi Rivers, but I mean, he could have fallen. He could have. That one I think is the weirdest one. I mean, animals, there are a lot of animals in Vermont and in the forest there. Um, but I do think that like James Tedford, I think he was despondent about going back to Bennington. I think he may have been having a mental health crisis. He could have just chosen to go elsewhere. I'm not sure.
Or just wander off? I mean, a lot of people,
Yeah.
like, you don't realize. So in Pennsylvania, I have friends that do search and rescue, and like 90% of the time,
Hmm.
it's older adults that are
It
veterans
just
and
yeah.
have also just like, because they could have had like a spark of PTSD and they're wandering in the woods and they think that
Hmm.
they're going to safety and they don't know, and then it's cold and one thing leads to another.
He was the only one that wasn't like in the woods though.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I do think he just like wandered somewhere.
yeah.
I agree with Paul Buddy Jepson's dad's assumption of what happened to him. I think maybe he had gotten out of the car and wandered, and it is possible that someone hit him or
Yeah.
something of the event. And then the last one, I agree with, their assumption. I think even she could have hit her head when she first fell into the
Oh
water,
yeah, just slipped and fell.
before like getting up and walking back. So I think it was just an accident. In terms of Paula Weldon, I truly don't know what to think. I don't think she's in those woods.
So
Um,
why did you bring up the fire lookout earlier?
it was
Was
just in the
there?
reports.
Okay. I was wondering if you
It's
were
just
going to
like
lead into
a
like that's where she was found. And I was like, "What?" No.
No, she's never been found. In 2024, there was like this old property that had been abandoned and they were gonna like tear it down and they found a bone there and it kind of brought this case back to light. Ended up being not it was not human. So after all of that, it was nothing. But I think one of the theories that could be true is that maybe she didn't disappear in the woods. Maybe she had gotten back out and she disappeared when she was hitchhiking back, right?
Yeah,
Because
like
she probably
somebody picked her
wouldn't
up and it
walk.
had foul play. That's what I'm thinking.
Right. Yeah.
Because I mean, it doesn't sound like she was starting over a new life. Like she straight up was like, "Hey, I'm going to go for a walk. I'll be back."
Right.
I don't know.
And like 2 weeks prior to her going out there for this instance, she had been out there for a botany class. So she was familiar with like at least a little bit of the area of the Long Trail. And I think they frame it like, oh, she asked that group of hikers how far the trail goes. I think she was just curious, not that she was like, oh, I'm going to walk all the way to Canada.
Oh yeah,
But a lot of times when you're like listening to people talk about it, that's kind of how they're framing it.
and I also want to know why the soldiers or the military guys never came
Left.
back for their uniforms because that's expensive.
Right. And I feel like they would get in trouble.
You do. If you don't return your
That I
stuff, you got
think
to pay for it.
I think that's weird. I think
Yeah,
that
something ain't
whole
right.
thing is weird. Yeah. But it's not like they found blood on those clothes. I mean, I
No,
guess
but
that they
something
could see,
suspicious
right? We
about it.
don't know. Right, because she never made it up there, or at least she wasn't seen up by the fire tower and by the cabins because
Yeah.
they don't think that she would make it. I mean, it seemed like, even with the way that she was dressed, that it was just going to be like a casual stroll, especially also getting there at like 3:30, 4 p.m. I have to
Bold
imagine
strategy. It's gonna
that
get dark out so
she
fast.
great, and I'm sure she knew that. She was from Connecticut originally. Like she's not
Yeah.
and she's a soft like she's been there for at least a year on campus, so I'm sure she knows that it gets dark early. Um
That's weird.
yeah, it's a lot of witnesses and zero information. You know what I mean? Like it's like all these people saw her, all these little tips, but
I have a feeling that she never ended up in the woods. Like she went to the woods and then
that's what
came
I'm
back and turned
thinking.
around and then she met foul play
Yeah,
afterwards, which
that's
sucks.
sad.
It is sad.
Yeah.
I hate that there's no answers. Story of our lives.
I know. And I just feel like unlike the last two that we've done, I'm like, I don't know that this will ever be solved.
I don't
Because
think it will.
I don't know.
It
Well,
was
I guess
so long ago.
well, yeah, also there's no body, right? That last two that we've talked about, there have been a body for both of them. Um, and like back then, like the last two cases that we discussed, if you didn't listen, took place in the 80s-ish, around there.
Yep.
And so we had discussed that this is kind of the beginning of DNA evidence, not necessarily fingerprinting, but specifically collecting DNA and then matching it. So back in the 1940s, I mean, they had nothing, like
Nothing.
there was
Literally nothing.
no nothing was collected. I mean, they didn't even find anything. There's nothing to be found. If they one person found footprints and we don't even know if they were hers. Like, you think that they thought to be like, "Oh, let's match this to her shoe." They don't even have her shoe.
Yeah. No. Which
It's
sucks because it's one of those things where there's never going to be closure.
and it snowed. So, it snowed that night.
Which is like the biggest tell of like, hey, we're never going to have that evidence.
And you would think that I don't know, you tell me because I'm from Florida, so I know nothing. But you would think that once it starts snowing, like if she's on the trail, it starts snowing, it's nighttime. Even if it's like 5 p.m., she's turning around. I can't imagine that she's going to continue on
Unless she
like
knew
in the
something was up
snow.
ahead. But yeah, 100%. You also got to think too at night. So when it snows and it's nighttime, it's a lot lighter out than you think it is. You can see a lot more.
Right, because of the snow,
Yeah, like the
right?
reflection of the snow against like with the moon. Yeah, it's a lot brighter out
Yeah.
than you think. So it's not like she's wandering pitch black. It's definitely something where she probably
No.
it started to get dark. She probably goes like, "Oh shit, I didn't realize it's getting dark." Turned around, walked back and was like, "Okay, I got to hitchhike." Tried to get a hitchhiker and then potentially the hitchhiker was a bad person. That's what I
Yeah.
have to guess happened.
Yeah. No, I agree with that because I also would think like okay, the sun starts setting at 4:20, right? If she's walking slowly ish, let's say it takes her like 20 minutes to walk a mile, which she's probably walking quicker. So let's give her like 17 minutes per mile.
Okay.
She can only go like a mile further. And I think when she was talking to that guy, he said it's like 2 miles to like a fork in a road. So she could have just walked up there and turned around. But sun starts setting at 4:20 doesn't mean it's pitch black out, right? It just means that
No.
the sun is starting to go down. So she still probably had about an hour before the sun was completely, no, 30 minutes to an hour
Yeah.
before the sun was completely down. Um,
No, I
yeah,
agree.
I don't know. I'm not giving you guys any answers. I'm just talking in circles, I feel like at this point. But I want to figure out what happened, but
I know. I don't think this
I
is one
don't
we can
know.
solve.
It's not. But I hope that one day they find her.
Oh,
And
me
that
too. Maybe she just went off and
I don't know
started a
that
new
they'll
life.
doubtful,
Maybe
but
she listened to the episode or she like listened to the missing person reports and was like, ha ha ha, I beat them. I don't think
yes,
that's what happened, but you know.
I think unfortunately even if she had gone and started a new life, the likelihood that she's still alive now is pretty slim
Oh
because
yeah.
that was
It's been so
1946.
long.
She was 18. Yeah,
Yeah.
quite sad.
No. Very interesting story though.
Thank you.
Interesting that
A
there's no
lot of
answers.
well, it's just like weird how many details they actually had. Like, wow, that's actually pretty impressive, for not having a state police.
Now
Like,
they do.
actually, okay, to be fair, I think it was mostly the reporter that got a lot of this, so good on him.
Yeah.
Um, Pete Stevenson. So maybe I
Shaftsbury.
shouldn't give credit. Yeah. So that's all I have. I don't have
Also,
any answers. Actually, I have negative answers, and we're in the negative now, unlike the
love
other
that for
two.
us. Love that for us. Thank
Yep.
you. Thank
So
you.
sorry, guys. Anywho,
This has been such a doozy of an episode solely because Peaches is like sitting right here in front of me, and I'm like, what am I doing? What do I like? She has one paw
what
on
do I
my
do with my
leg,
hands?
and she's just like waiting for me to fuck up.
I love that. That's
Yeah.
funny.
But if you did make it this far, thank you guys so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed it.
Hmm.
If you want to give us a review or leave us some stars, you can review on Apple Podcasts, give us stars on Spotify. If you want to reach out to us and talk to us about what your thoughts are on this case, if you have the answers, tell us. Or if you have other cases or things you want to tell us about, you can do it a couple different ways. One, there's a link in our show notes that says send us a text. There's a way for you to email us, which is waitforrealpod@gmail.com. Or you can find us on our social media, which our tag is at waitforrealpod, POD. We really love any fan interaction that we can get. Yes, I call you guys our fans because that's how you are to me. And then Peaches is now chewing on my cords. Ow, and my hand.
Super
Um, if you want to support
violence.
us monetarily, please, please, please buy us a cup of coffee. There's a link in our show notes. We're going to save up
Hmm.
money and buy a lighthouse and or a
That's
haunted
right.
house. Who knows yet? You know, times could tell. We need a
Yeah.
nice like housing market crash for us to afford something. So,
That's right.
but is there
Great.
anything else that I'm forgetting, Katie?
Like and subscribe on YouTube if you're watching us there. Even if you're not watching, it would be great. And share with a friend. It helps get our podcast out there. I think that
Yes.
is it.
Okie doke. Well, we'll leave it as we always do.
Go to therapy.
And don't forget to leave the lights on.